funny. I almost ended stream just now. Holy shit. First, hey, what up, Cash Cow? How you doing, dude? Yeah, switch over. Howdy. How is you? How is your night? Howdy, mofo. How's your night going, dude? Grandia 1. No, what's that again? I really better just play Grandia 2. But I can't skip yet.
Game art.
Watching a murder doc. Are you with Brittany right now? And if so, which doc? Doc! Even though this is a good guess. Yeah, because I was like, you don't watch murder docs. That's a girlfriend thing to do. Hey, what up, B90? This guy. How you doing, dude? All my little BBs are trickling in. Normally I'd skip it, but like this intro and the song just does something in my brain, you know? Like, it's happening. I'm doing good, and you? I'm doing all right. Doing all right. The cult behind the killer, the Andrea Yates story. I don't know that one. I watch more documentaries. They help me sleep at night. Yesterday was a Yowie night. What up, Ken? For a second, I thought you were Cash Cow. So reading that was glorious. And welcome in, you boy. Do I know? Thank you for the redeem. Do I know Andrea Yates? Who this is? Oh shit! She drowned her 5 kids in the bathtub in 2001. Damn, girl. 5 of them? A lot. We're about to do yoga. Oh, nice. I hope that goes well. Erica was telling me about. It's fucked up. Yeah. What was the documentary on? Is that on Max? But Erica was telling me about goat yoga, and that shit just cracks me up. Now I have to try it someday. That's on my bucket list now. I'll drown her in the bathtub with my kids. I did goat yoga. Nice. I'm a little jealous. Yeah, boy, murder's not the answer. Alright, now where the fuck? This shit just started. That's right. Oh, and I can drop shit off in storage. This is the best news. Murder that pussy. Wait, what are you talking about? What up, Paul? First. I didn't notice that you were first. Good shit, dude. Wait. Oh, I am 2 stash. Can I stash the spirit stone even though I can't use it? That's awesome. I didn't know that. I thought that shit was stuck in there. Yeah, I gotta get rid of some of this shit. We get rid of the chola. And trust. Okay, I think I'm feeling pretty good about this. We'll get rid of another chola. I'm gonna nail that chola. Trust. Cool. What are you up to tonight, Paul? Wow. Why'd they sound like that? It's like he might as well actually go rawr. First. Hey, what up, Jay? Damn, you're first too? Justin, get down! MB90's first too. Whoa. You guys must be time travelers. Or cross-dimensional beings. Oh shit. Wait, why didn't... Where was you in the fight? Plot mold. I don't share my secrets. I don't know why. The way I read that, it reminds me of like those videos of dudes getting pulled over and the cops are asking them questions. They're just like, I don't answer questions. And then they put their license up to the window. I don't answer questions. I'm a sovereign citizen. Those are always fun to watch. No, let's just do attack. These guys can't be that strong. What secrets? Oh, I love those. For real. Doing good, playing Rocket League. Play a good game. Play Grandia. And Grandia too. So, no Al last night? No. Sorry. I can do Outlast. I'll probably do Sunday. It's not that I don't want to play. It's just that I gotta finish this so I can play the better game, which is Grandia 2. Outlast these nuts on your chin. Nice. Got him. The secret ones. Larvesta gay. Yeah, boy, are you having a stroke? I haven't understood a single message other than your first one.
Not bad, eh?
You never go full retard. Oh, the Pokemon. Oh. That's funny. That was the Pokemon that escaped. Yeah, I saw it after it said they escaped. I missed the initial Pokemon message. It's kind of like white noise now. I barely noticed it. Oh wait, I'm still poisoned? I'm not having a stroke, you're just too slow. Yeah, that's fair. Burn! Grandia gay. Grandia not gay. Grandia tight as fuck. Too slow. Oh wait, yeah, I gotta heal. I keep not healing my poison. Too slow. There you go. Too slow. Too slow. There you go, Tuco. I don't know where the fuck I'm going. Oh wait, no! I still haven't fucking healed my poison. Why am I like this? Use antidote. And use the other antidote, jeez. Hey, Cyber! How you doing, dude? My chat's popping like it's 2008. How does the Grand Adventure? The Grand Adventure's doing great. How you doing, Contextual Penguin? Welcome back. I needed you the other night, and you weren't there. I was stuck in a dungeon. What do you mean? You're the Grandia expert, and I needed an expert. What? Missing Force? Got you tangled? No, it wasn't the Misty Forest. It was, the ruins? The Dom ruins? Is that, some kind of ruins. Wait. I'm the Grandia sexpert. I want to sex through bitchy army girls. View? Is it? Oh, the Dom Ruins is the only semi-complex dungeon so far. Yeah, that's why it caught me off guard. I was like, wait, where the fuck do I go?
This'll teach you.
But yeah, my goal is to just burn through this and get to 2. Grandia Gay talk more about the Street Fighter movie coming out. What else is there to say? I geeked out pretty hard on it. Was it yesterday or Monday? Jay's sexual experience only goes as far as the Pamela Henderson and Angela Jolie. Yeah, this is true. What was one that I heard? It was like Thumbelina and her 4 friends or something. Something silly like that. Or like Chris Hansen. See what I did? I call you Chris Hansen. You do this the easy way or the hard way? I like you, and I want you. Damn it! I thought you were stronger than that.
Pretty easy.
We'll never get another show like Boondocks, will we? It's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. You know, might not be tomorrow, might not be next year, but we will. Be any jealous because my hand won't give him the time of day. Yeah, your hand only has eyes for you. Alright, my cat keeps doing that. She gets the zoomies when I'm streaming and it scares the shit out of me. If you were in Redux, you'd be avoiding these doubles like the plague. Oh, yeah, I bet. That's the difficulty mod, right?
Alright, we won!
You're too far away. It's not jealousy, it's FOMO. Any fight with more than 3 enemies is basically death. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit too difficult. Doesn't gotta be that hard. Am I ambushed? Okay. You like this one more than 2, huh? I feel like 2's the better game. I like it. Oh, but I like it because the point is to actually run away from combat. Does the like level scaling at least account for that? Because if I run away from everything, I feel like the game will only get harder because I'm not getting an experience, right?
Pretty easy.
It's because you're only a party of 2. Oh yeah, right now, yeah. And then we find Sue's bitch ass, and then we get oh, hey, what people? That was loud. There's like a big knight guy. I think he's like the first guest party member. And it's progressively give crazy experiences as you go along. Okay, so they do account for that. That's good. When are you adding Being Chilling 2 for a redeem? I don't know. Actually, I gotta like refresh my redeems. Some of them got stale, and some of them have like never been used. So I don't know yet. It's a good question. The main thing is to just level your magic and weapons proper, but that's pretty easy to do because if you aren't, you're probably dying. Right? It's like, yeah, it's the only way to progress. Chola. I picked up a Chola, guys. Oh shit. What? Wait, do it again. Do it. Oh. I thought I was actually gonna move out of the way. Alright, I'll go this way then. Be that way. I'm notoriously bad at not using redeems in any channel almost ever. Hold on, I definitely have to turn that down. That's just like... That was like peaking. It's all good. I mean, they're there just to have fun, if that's how you choose to engage with the stream. Quiet on our end. Is it really? I don't know how to fix that. I guess I could just turn this down and listen to the game even a little quieter. Your audio settings are weird, yeah. Your audio, oh yeah.
Враг сзади по левому флангу!
Is the Elgato too loud? Ah, whatever. I'll adjust it some other day. There. Oh, that was you? Yep, you did do it. Okay. Okay. I'm going this way. Oh shit, nice. This seems to be the favorite right now. Later, retards. Oh, you're leaving me? Bye, Cyber. Thanks for hanging out. What you doing there, Elmo? He meant to say regards.
You make me happy.
That movie's amazing. I love Tropic Thunder. Might as well defend. Bend and defend. Oh dang, he was like far away. How did he hit him with the axe? Oh, you motherfucker. Die! Oh, there's a lot over here. Regrads, retards. No regret. I gotta get a heal all. But I don't have any magic eggs. Is this the Steam version? No, this is on Switch. I'm doing a HDMI capture. Oh yeah. I'll heal you. Justin, you got this, right? Yeah, he do. Do shockwave.
Now you'll be okay.
The other version you can't patch.
Here goes.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Literally the only thing I would want to patch is this god-awful filter that they used. On the portraits, I don't mind. It's the in-game sprites. I hate that filter. I would just rather have the sharp pixel sprites. I think Grandia 2 has built-in hard mode, HD mode. Wait, what? Built-in HD mode? I don't know what you mean by that. There is a difficulty mode, I want to say, in 2. But also for 2, I'm probably gonna do the Dreamcast version. I might do that. Even though I have that on Steam and I have that on Switch as well. And PS2. But that's like the worst version of that game. Yeah, they're weak as hell. I should just heal a little bit more. Who needs it? You need it.
Now you'll be okay.
Oh, he missed. Or she blocked that shit, yo. Not that one. Die! Oh, I should attack the other one. That's all good. Because here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna heal one more gun. One more gun. Yeah.
Now you'll be okay.
This one's good. I think it's a good game. I'm more into it for the vibes, to be honest, and like the idea of the concept of the combat system that they have here. But I think everything in 2 is better. I like how it's darker. I like the 3D graphics, as you know, 2000 as they are. The music's better. The voice acting's way better. Not by much, but the voice acting's better. But yeah, mostly the combat in 2 is just a lot more engaging. This is just kind of cute. But I have an issue with playing games out of order. Even though these are replays, I'm like, I might as well replay 1 before replaying 2. Does it have a green-haired baddie? No, it has a red-haired baddie. You're gonna want that one. Actually, what color is Tio's hair? I was thinking about Melina. Tio, Grandia, or is it Tia? No, it's Tia. There's a purple hair baddie. Like a dark, it's like a desaturated purple. Indigo. So yeah, not green. Also, Fina's like 16, so. Plain Jane Elena or red-haired Dami Melina. Dude, Millennia. She's also not real else to get over it. We just have the 2 get over. Like I'm gonna call the cops on you. Yeah, this nigga gooning the cartoons. You get over it. Fina ain't 16, bruh, but she's like 15, 14. She's young, right? She's 12. No, she's not that young. Not 15. Yeah. She's like 12 pixels. Yeah, I mean, but that's what gets you excited, you know. More power to you. See, I'm a much more complex individual. I need a woman on stilts holding tomatoes while calling me slurs. That's what gets me going. She wants it. Look how she's dressed. Jeez. This game's really sweet though. What's this? Someone's shoes? Oh my god, shoes. It gets hot in New Parm. Wait, these are Sue's shoes. Sue's shoes acquired. And they're like, oh god, what is that? Is that a head? Oh my god, it's Sue's head! Plot mold. I've seen some toilets in my day, and that's really the only way to describe it. It's plot mold. Low-key wish they did some aging in this game. I think they could have. Author might have made Justin 16 by the end of it. Oh, that'd be cool. I kind of like how mostly straightforward this one is, but a nice time skip is always appreciated in good RPGs, you know? You know, another RPG that I kind of want to stream, make them 18 and fully nude. Have you guys played, oh fuck, what's it called? I just had it. Lost Odyssey? Is that what it's called? It's like Highlander, the JRPG. Yeah, Lost Odyssey. That's a fun game. Barely touched it, but yeah. She's asking for it. She's wearing purple. That's my favorite color. Hey, what up, Dry? Welcome in, brother. For some reason, they had to make Rito 17. Rito being, it's not really his age, but I like Rito as a character. He's just like some atheist mercenary, you know? And there's a line that he says, something about, fuck, he hates religion and women, and somehow he has to deal with both of those on this one quest. It's something, I butchered that, but I'm basically paraphrasing. But yeah, something to that effect. Well, he says that to a priest, and I was like, nice. First in my pants. Die! No, fuck. Is that canceled? That's canceled. And counter. Wow! That's what they sound like. It's kind of annoying. Alright, you are gonna heal... I don't have heal magic. Never mind. You were gonna attack, sir. Considering he does have a bit of backstory, it would have been perfectly reasonable to be 18 by then. Well, it's a lot better than 14, I guess. That's true. I'm first, get fucked. How are you guys all first? How is this happening? Honestly, this stream should be studied. Like, I would go as far as to say it's a temporal impossibility. So whatever crazy paradox is happening in my stream, we gotta get the press. Get him, get him, get him, get him, get him. Okay, cool. Oh, yeah, I should heal. So, I'm so first. I've been here since yesterday. Who was first? Oh, actually, Cash Cow was first. Nice try, guys. Magic. You. Again. 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 Need more older MCs that are interesting in RPGs. Expedition 33 did a good job. Final Fantasy 16 could be better. I didn't play 16 yet. I have some turnoffs about that game, but I'll get to it eventually. I'll get over it. I'll be like, this is good. It's just different. But I didn't play Expedition 33 yet. I also own that. I got it $30 on CD keys. Like that. But I'm in no position to play another RPG stream, you know? It doesn't feel like Final Fantasy combat. Yeah, it looks like Devil May Cry. I like some Final Fantasy in my Final Fantasy. Justin is his name. He sounds like he drinks Rockstar energy drinks and rides dirt bikes. He sounds just like a little dork. Little dork to me. But in all fairness, everybody's voice acting in this game is awful. But I think that adds to the charm. This game's I don't know, man. It's got that sauce, you know? It's got that something, something. Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth did well in that regard by doing something different, but feeling like Final Fantasy combat. Yeah, because it's still like semi-turn-based, isn't it? But even then, like Final Fantasy 15 was very different, but I still felt at its core like a Final Fantasy. Also, the setting and story, like it felt like a love letter to its past in a way. Wait, I want that. I want that gold. No, it's fine. If anything, I need more mana eggs. I think the crucial difference is having a party. Final Fantasy 16 barely has a party. Oh, I didn't even know that. 16 is an absolute banger. No, I've heard it's good. It just pisses me off. just you know, on a superficial level. So like I said, once I play it, I'll get over it and be like, it's good. But I don't like it right now. Do you know why it's called the sauce? No. 16 still qualifies as a decent game. No, I mean, it can be a good game, just a bad Final Fantasy. Like, I think Far Cry 4. I mean, Fallout 4. I think it's a good game. I think it's an awful Fallout, you know? Or Resident Evil 6. Resident Evil 6 is a banger. But I think it's a terrible Resident Evil game, you know? Fallout 4 is in fact not a good game. You know what's funny? As I said it, I was like, I bet you Jay's gonna say something. I think 16 is a great installment in the Final Fantasy series. I'm sure it is. I think people like it. I just don't want to play Devil May Cry. right now. But when I do, I'll like it. I'll enjoy it. We wait for a deep cell. You haven't played it? I thought you said. No, he played it. He's been glazing it every time it comes up. You can have the juice or the sauce. The juice goes fast like Minute Maid in the fridge. The sauce stays around like barbecue sauce. If that's... Is that a joke? Where's the punchline? I'm so confused. I am slow. We clarified this earlier, so maybe I just didn't get it. The juice goes fast and sauce lasts. Sorry. I feel like I'm shitting on all your jokes tonight. Sorry.
Not bad, eh?
Uh oh, wait. Can I use this? What is it? Oh, 80 HP. Oh, that's a lot, though. I don't need all that. Let me discard an inventory item. Joey, remember when you were the Baby Shark Bandit? Don't you ever slander my name like that again. I was gonna throw a bitch fit if I heard that shit again. Oh, dude, I have plenty of this, but I might need more. I'll just drop this one. It's fine. Puff, puff, puff. Wait. Puff, puff. Here we go. Hey, is that Puffy? Is there Diddy over there? Wait, hold on. Take it easy, Puffy. Okay, now where's Sue? And Sue's just like impaled on a branch like Lara Croft in the first Square Enix one. If you fail those fucking quick times. Dude, Lara gets fucked up in that game. Wait, calm down, Puffy. Puff, 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 puff! Look at those sick Puffy frames. Yeah, Puffy's like, I'm in a seizure or something. Wait, Justin, we're not getting anywhere this way. Let's have Puffy lead us to her. Yeah, okay, right. Okay, so take us to her, Puffy. Alright, I'll be right there, Puff. It's like when they say, be there or be square. You know what that phrase means? Yeah, I do. So in this analogy, juice and sauce are like people? Yeah, not round, yeah. Puff, 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 puff. Oh god, they cooked her. Next to the cauldron, huh? Next to the cauldron. It's Sue's bag, but the cauldron! Or a triangle. Yeah, but triangle doesn't rhyme. Puff, puff, pass, nigga. Nice.
Puff, puff, pass, nigga.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Let's not be foolish. Now calm down, Fina. Yeah, but...
Hey, you. Is
Oh,
this pot yours?
voice acting. Hell
What
yeah.
happened to what was inside?
Are you hungry? I'm afraid I ate it all. There's nothing left.
Fina! That does it. Hey, come on and fight.
This is
I'll
random,
take you on.
but that pot,
you
I love
do.
how they're flickering that texture to make it look like flames are on the bottom of it. They did a really good
You
job
and
with that.
I in a duel. Well, how about
Dude,
that?
this game would be an
I'll be
amazing
glad to
candidate
take you
for, what do they call it now? 2D
I am
HD?
Gadwin,
HT2D, you know?
Knight of Dight.
Because it has 2D characters in the 3D world. Give this some proper lighting. maybe facelift of the backgrounds, you know? And then give me back my sweet pixel sprites, not this fucking Vaseline over smooth, smudgy filter shit. Looks like RuneScape. Yeah, I see it. Wait, do you got the power shroom? No. Other than the smoothing, this game has really charming art. It really does, yeah. This game, honestly, this game oozes charm, and I think that's its biggest strength more than anything. Like, the combat system's good in here, but, like, once again, it doesn't really pick up until 2. Here you can, not quite, you can almost ignore it, which is why I think a lot of people would like this game to be a little bit harder. Wait. Should I defend too? Or should I use magic? Defend this, bitch.
Here goes! Ha!
No, I don't think I have the power shroom. What's that? I don't know what the power shroom is. Oh, shit. Should I just let him attack me? There's a trick here, isn't there? He's immune to magic. He looks like he's immune to everything. It's okay. Power shroom ups your attack. Oh, permanently? I found some seeds or nuts. I forgot what they called them in here. I think they're seeds, which gave me some strength and oh damn, nice. Oh dear, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. Justin, huh? Sue? Get wrecked, noob. It was scripted. Wouldn't catch me taking 9999 damage. Huh? How did I get here? He's not making stew out of us? Ha 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 ha. That stew is Gadwin's special dish. It's flying dragon stew. We are flaming dragon! Is that Jinx? It is Jinx. Is that her name? Huh? Who are you? This is Dr. Alma. She rescued me after I passed out in the forest. Dr. Alma's a very kind lady. She's just like my mother. You mean your mother who's dead? Yeah, decent global emote. Nice. I'm Dr. Alma. I have a clinic in Dwight. I almost said Dwight. In Dite Village. Up the road from here. I'll go up the road, though. I was surprised to hear a young man like you cross swords with Gadwin, the greatest swordsman of Dite. It was a scripted, you gotta get good. Trying! Alma, you're insulting this young man. Even at his youthful age, he's a fine swordsman. His skill with longsword bellies his age. It was a long and interesting sword fight. Don't you agree, Justin? You just suck my dick already. Oh dear. Gadwin, you hadn't changed a bit since we were kids. I guess that's just the way you are. Well, I think Sue is fine now, so I'll be returning to Dite. I'll leave the rest to you, Gadwin. Alma, what's the rush? You seem to be in a hurry. Is it because of the rain? Can't stop the rain. Yes, that is one reason. Already some people have fallen ill. I may have to work all night tonight. She's gone. And I didn't even thank her. Well, anyway, I say it's time to get some rest. Okay, everyone? And then we gotta eat dinner, and then I gotta read my text. Wait, what? That's awesome. Wait, fucking... Dude, my friend has a Godzilla cookbook. I don't even know what that means. Why would Twitch do this? They removed Porosad? What's Porosad? I'm gonna Google Porosad. Is that one of those fucking emotes? It's like a little, it looks like a cross between, Appa and, a critter. Sorry, I have to reply to these. What the fuck? It was like the best sad emote they had. There is another emote that I love that I saw. It's like that sad cat. Sad cat frown meme. I like this one. Oh yeah, here. You on and you off. This one. It's Kitty right here. I think he's like resting on one of those like cones, but it's adorable. Yeah, right here. I like this one. But yeah, I'm sorry, Gadwin. I jumped to conclusions about you. Thanks for helping Sue. Ah, ha, 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 ha. When Justin misunderstands, he does it all the way. Hey, I wasn't the only one. Fina fainted when she saw the cauldron. Her eyes rolled up like this. Hey, come on, I didn't do that. Don't be a bastard, Justin. Oh. Well, ha ha ha. Okay, no big deal. Everyone makes mistakes, right? You'll never catch me making mistakes. So, Justin, is it true that the three of you crossed that huge wall? The end of the world? Of course it's true. We came on an adventure! Looking for the ruins of the Angelo civilization. That's hard to believe, but we're comrades who've dueled together. Your eyes tell me it's the truth. I'll help in whatever way I can. Is there anything else you want to ask? Let me roll about this strange place. This is the this is the Valley of the Flying Dragon. It is the place closest to the end of the world. It has the world's steepest mountains. It's a good place to sharpen your sword and your skills as a warrior. Warrior? That's right. From this side of this wall, this area must be seen as the end of the world. So it's like what the Misty Forest... Wait. It's like what the Misty Forest is to the people on our side of the wall. You can imagine how I felt when I found an unconscious young girl here. Phrasing. Surprised the heck out of me. Waha. Gadwin, you've been such a big help to us, and especially to Sue. We must somehow repay you. We'd like to help you in any way we can if you ever need our help. Okay, Justin. Just, may I consider that a man-to-man promise? Sure. That is the way it must be. I will not accept anything less, or I'll kill you. We're going with Gavin to some place called Diet. That sounds great. Are you sure this is okay? When you made such a promise so quickly, I get bad premonitions. Yeah, don't be a pussy, dude. We'll get some sleep. Tomorrow, I'll show you Diet Village. Diet, huh? I wonder what that village is like. Isn't this fun? Fina? Sue? Right? Guys? Like nobody has his back. Oh, dang. I got a party of 4 now. Hell yeah. Ah, yeah. Can they go inside your house and rob you? Take some shit? Oh, I can. Ooh. Hell yeah. But yeah, I think this game should get the 2D HD treatment. It won't replace this, you know. And maybe it should even have a filter. You know, like the Tomb Raider game, it lets you toggle between the old PS1 look and then, like, good graphics. Oh, damn, we just punched that shit. Or like how Halo does it, you can toggle. I think it should get these nuts, these nuts treatment. Yeah, that'll work too. Nah, just fight. Just fight. Kill this one first. Just get him out of the way. Nice.
What a cinch.
You're off tonight, right, Jay? Yeah, you are. And tomorrow. And tomorrow we're playing Outbreak. They call him Gad Win because he wins the game for you. Yeah, cool if I can keep him. Oh, shit, he's level 30, dog. Wait, what? Oh. Silly me. I got the POW seed. Alright, let me actually start using some of these. Oh, just one? Okay. I just want to give it to Justin. He's hard to level, but absolutely cracked for this part of the game. I got Squid Gut. Nice. Mike Roma. Ikeroma. I'll go this way then. Wait. This is where I came from. Oh, here we go. This might work. I heard it when I first dropped earlier last year, but it didn't make anything out of it. Now I'm on a mission. But yeah, I said earlier, my friend has a Godzilla cookbook. LOL, what kind of shit is in there? Oh dang, yeah, I'm gonna try now. It's fucking killing everything.
What a cinch.
Damn right, it's my initiative. His wit sucks hard though. Oh, like his magic? Is that what that's for? Alright, what's wit? Is that like wisdom? His action? Oh, okay, okay. I mean, he's strong enough to where I don't think I really care about that. Once he attacks, he hits hard. You know?
Pretty easy, right, puppy?
Yeah, this game's kind of easy. I think I panic sometimes because I have to try every now and then. I just think it's funny how the prospect of 2 is really what's driving me through this, and it's nice to revisit this. I've said before, and I think I've shown it. It's like I was so charmed by this goddamn game and inspired. First time I finished it, I made like an actual art piece. It's hanging in my living room.
What a cinch.
I never made any art for 2. Ah! Fuck. Am I ambushed? Yeah. You. Die!
Hip hip hooray!
Health weed. Wait, where'd you go? Damn it! I was so confident I would just run into him. Oh, it canceled. Dang. Oh, yeah! Oh, he just swings at whatever's next to him. Because I attacked the other guy first. And he attacked this one this time. A little worried for a sec. I'm not worried, but you know, I don't like getting ambushed. It makes this flow a little slower. Ah, that felt good.
No match for me.
He's so big. I'll be AFK lurking. You won't need me for the valley. All right. Well, thank you for the lurk. I appreciate you. Good seeing you tonight. If I don't catch you before you're back, I hope you have a great rest of your night. It's probably a waste, but fuck it. Yeah, you.
Here goes!
You're no match for me.
You're no match. Damn, dude, wait. How many enemies are there? I could have just ran away, but we're so long. It's easy to get, like, ambushed now. I can't stealth past these guys because I have, like, a big-ass tail of characters. It's not worth the risk.
Pretty easy.
Stop it. What's that? What is this? Oh, I can use that to go up. Huh? Mana egg. Fuck yeah. Magic currency. For those who don't know. Even though I prefer how it works in 2 more. I prefer everything about 2 more. Come on. Come on. Here we go. Wait, how's Sue's equipment? Do I need to give her anything? Or is she good? Check, I haven't thought this through. This one. No, this one. Flint bow. Oh, you're good. She's good. But you. He's got, okay, cool, cool, cool. Okay, there's money over there. I want that money after this fight. Slipple. Die!
You're no match for me.
Motherfucker, he jumps around. It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Oh, damn. Can you do magic? You heal? Oh, you got some good shit, too. Yeah, he doesn't have any magic either. Or not healing. Maybe I could use an item. Keep my inventory lower. Did I get any health weed? I didn't get shit. Okay. Is there a setting? I don't like. Let me see. Yeah, I don't like that remembering in the menu. I like it like being fresh every time, you know? Does that make sense? Whatever. Who's got what? What will I do again? Oh, 80. That's actually a lot. Fuck it. Oh shit. What does this do? Oh, damn. Nice.
What a cinch.
Can I open this? Oh shit. Ah, it's gonna explode. Oh. Oh, nice. You're gonna bite me? Yep, yep. It moved, so I was like... Ambush? Okay. Wow. $35, damn.
Here goes. Prepare to die.
Pretty easy.
Ha ha ha. Yeah, he's never gonna level up. Holy shit. Die! Anybody seen any good movies lately?
What a cinch.
Looks dope. I forgot what that even was. Oh, hold on. I'm fucking up. I gotta check this real quick. Sorry, guys. One second. Skip ad. Why is it doing that? Oops. Shit. What is this? Oh. Whatever. Alright, done. Oh shit, that was close. Man, I'm feeling tired though, but I'm good. I have to finish this.
Pretty easy, right, Puppy?
Wow. Wait, who? The Gadwin? No, it's not Gadwin. Let's get this guy. Gadwin, get the devil.
You're no match for me.
Nobody is. And the enemy just pulls out like a gun. Grandpa, I'm tired. Well, that's too damn bad. I like that movie. I haven't seen it forever though. What are you up to, you boy? How's your night going? You watching anything? Playing anything? I probably could do the other one on the right. Or I mean, in the middle. Oh, they got all four. Okay, that's good. What? Oh, alright. It just happened. Discarding hotel lobby. Oh, you're working. You're working. That's right. That's right. Well, I hope your shift's going well. Are you streaming when you get home? Oh shit, that was close. Justin, no! Cool.
Not bad, eh?
We got a lot of health weed that time. Oh, let me use it on probably gonna stream. Right on, brother. I'll probably be asleep, but hell yeah. Wow.
You're no match for me.
Oh. Hopefully they're together and they're not like I'm gonna get ambushed on the next fight right after this.
Rage and flame.
It's so cool. Oh, I thought that would be enough to kill them all. I mean, it's a lot of damage shared between them, so that's not so bad.
Pretty easy.
Gonna be using the health weed every time now. Who's technically Justin's lowest, so. Yup. Oh, there is enemies right there. Solch weed? What does this do? Oh, -2 action. I'll discard a plethora of health weed. But what were you streaming again? You were doing that one at the door game, and then what was the other game you were streaming today? Forget.
Pretty easy, right, Puppy?
Don't touch me, don't touch me. Okay. It's a good spot to camp out. Oh, cool, Tight Village. Yo, who's at the door? Yeah, I remember who's at the door, but there was another game you streamed. You streamed 2 different games. And I think the door one was the second one. Right? This is Tight Village. There's an inn right over there. I thought I'd guide you there, but what's wrong, Gadwin? Something I noticed earlier. Clouds from the north are blanketing the sky. Sandal Bitches 7 or something. Huh? The sky sure does look strange. Looks like a rainstorm's coming. There's a storm coming. Please excuse me, but I must go talk with the elder. Let me have a look at the sights here in Ditown. Gone already. Guess he's in a big hurry. That's strange though. Concerned about the rainstorm on the way. Right? It's like the timefall in Death Stranding.
Let's see.
That's what you fucking sound like?
Took us some medicine to Dr. Alma, but it's not nearly enough.
You sound like Conkers. Oh shit.
I have to make 2 trips. But you know, everyone gets better with my medicine. Just warms my heart and fills my wallet. Don't you think it's wonderful?
Huh? I don't know. I guess.
Well, everyone is happy. Isn't that just a wonderful?
Let's play Fallout 76, that's right. First, but my team I was on the other day before it wasn't on, so I wasn't feeling it. Next time I stream, I might play that again, even if it's by myself.
Can I touch you? Just a little?
Wasn't everybody playing that for a while? I think Cyber even gifted it to me, but I'm a dick and I didn't play it.
You keep calling me rabbit. From my point
Yeah,
of view,
FYI,
you
gifting me
guys are
games
from
is a gamble,
the
okay,
other
guys?
side of the wall. You're the stranger-looking ones.
Huh? How did you know that we came across the wall?
Who are you?
I'm Guido of Zilpadden.
Guido?
Traveling a salesman traveling through.
Shouldn't they be sounding like Jersey Shore people? Oh, nice. A wild Meryl appeared. Meryl. Let me drop some shit off. My stash is gonna get full. Permanent? Okay, actually. I'm gonna make Justin like a fucking powerhouse. And Fina. Fina's the other consistent character here. Oh, yeah. Hey, you guys know what that old saying? That Moge? 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 We like it to say, ha, you know it. I don't care much about old sayings, but I would like you to tell us how you got to know so much about us. They say everyone is born to play a part in life. Same goes for you, Justin. Well, as I said, I don't care much. Hey, you even know my name. Us a Moge. He's like a fucking Jar Jar, dude. We know everything. That's me. I'm a Moge. Okay. Listen, if you want to know lots of answers, you gotta keep or just to keep traveling. When you go traveling, you're gonna learn lots of things about the world, the spirits, and use. So hey, I gotta go. I gotta get ready to leave, or else I got no time to stock up my goods. But wait a minute, just tell me one thing. Don't you Moge folk know anything about Alent? Oh shit. For now, let me just say this. We know some things, but then we don't know nothing. Hey, you keep traveling. I'm sure we're gonna meet up again, and then we can talk some more. Okay, cool. Bye. Good chat. Weapon store? Oh, fuck yeah. I'm listening to you, and this makes me want to punch you. Oh, no, I feel it. I hated reading that. What the fuck is this writing? Oh, dude, yeah, this game, the localization across the board kind of sucks. The voice acting sucks. Your voice acting is on par with the game's voice acting. I'll take that as a compliment. But yeah, the voice acting sucks. The writing itself isn't great, but still, a lot of the charm just bleeds through. And it is one of those things where it's like, the voice acting's so bad, it's weirdly endearing. Hey, I haven't seen you around here, so what you think of my goods? Go ahead, pick stuff up, check it out. If you got anything you don't need, turn. Oh yeah. Why am I talking to you? I know this. Fire rod. Ooh. Oh shit. This is some expensive shit. What goes down though? Let me see. -10 move. 38 attack. That's kind of good. I've been playing the Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, and some of the writing for the main characters makes me angry. I want to play those games a lot. I'll get this one. I'll sacrifice a little move. Yeah. Fuck, it's expensive, dude. It's half my moolah right there. How much does my attack go up? So either to 96 or to 100. I'll do 105. I'll do it. Let me trade though. Here we go. Oh man, that's a big number. So yeah, let's work that way. Gale whip. skull armor? Skeleton armor? Damn. Okay. Yeah, I'm fucking broke! Alright, we're gonna trade. I like how it's barely an increase, but it's fine. Worth it. Or it will be. Okay, and then got the shields, armor, yeah. Damn. Actually, might not be able to afford all this. Let me see. I'll give her the armor first. Yeah. Just everything. I just need one more of those. Let me see if I can sell some more shit. Oh yeah, the magic egg bullshit. Oh, and I can sell some stuff that I have my stash. Oh, wait. Oh, you don't have any mana eggs. I thought I picked up a mana egg. Did I not? Oh. I could have sworn I did earlier. Let me, oh, this is where I buy those. No, where's my stash? That's the same icon for my stash. Bastards. So. Mace. Chola. It'll be worth it. Okay. All right. Getting squeaky clean right now. That's the chief's hut, I'm guessing. His house, whatever's. I don't really care about the house. I just want to proceed. House 2, okay. Chief? Elder, that's what they called him. Elder, writing for big trouble here. If it starts raining, right you are, Gadwin. But will it really rain? I can't say for sure, but when I look at those clouds, I feel a cold shiver run down my spine. Oh, it's you. Sorry, I've got more talking to do. It's rather urgent matter. If you could wait for me over there, I'll join you after my talk with the Elder. Right here? Leave? Let me talk to the Elder. Who are you? I'm the village elder. Just the thing you need? Please excuse us. We're discussing a crucial matter. Now, would you kindly come back later? Fine. Jeez. Oh yeah, Dr. Alma. Hey girl. Oh, it's you. Did you come to visit me? I just finished treating a patient. I suspect the Typhoon Tower is responsible for these illnesses. I see a lot of patients and my suspicion becomes stronger each day. I don't think I'm mistaken. It's gonna get even busier around here later. You folks be sure to get plenty of rest. Clouds out there. I sure hope nothing bad happens. I have a feeling like something bad's gonna happen. Oh, 6. God damn, how many houses are there? We have lived with spirits so far. Even when the spirits frown on us, we dare not oppose them. Okay. Sea turtle god, pull the sun out from behind the clouds, much as you pull your head and arms from your shell. What is this? What are you doing? He's praying, dude. Oh, turtle, to the turtle god. I'm crying out to you. Here's a spell, so bring out the sun. No, dang it. That's not it at all. Hey, don't try to talk to me now. I'm trying to conjure a spell to clear away the clouds. Fuck your spell. Oh, I pressed A too fast. Why are you frustrated about it? Oh, right. I just can't serve the same thing every day. It tastes good. Wait. I can't just serve the same thing every day because it tastes good. The children must have some variety. Yeah. Oh, water spirits. Maybe catch the right kind of fishing on this fishing trip. Puff puff. Yikes, magnificent spirits. Doesn't look that way. Say, what are you? Right now, you look kind of like human beings. Yeah. Dragon nest? Oh yeah, go see it. What's this? Okay, cool. Ugh, we're catching less and less fish each day. It must be because of the polluted water. We do our best to catch fish, but we can hardly catch enough for us to eat. What do? The water's polluted? It doesn't look dirty or anything. It does look polluted, but it does look like there's a seam here. Maybe that's the problem, dude. Try fishing a little more to the left. Away from the seam. Whale rock. I've got a sad tale to tell you. Want to hear it? Yeah, sure. Okay, here's a sad tale for you. Long ago, back when the sea and the sky were still linked, a baby whale somehow got into the sky. The gods noticed how blue the sky over Dite was, so they pulled the sea and sky apart. It was too late for the maroon baby whale, who became a star that night. The baby whale's mother got frantic over her lost baby, her baby who had been pulled so far away. She came to this beach trying with all her might to get closer to her poor lost baby. She cried and cried. Finally, her sorrow was so deep that she turned into whale rock. Dang. Pretty sad. Right now, what? Yeah, I looped around. I have to try and pretend like I'm gonna leave, and then they show up. It's one of those. Right in. Yeah, probably. Yeah, let me get back in there. That's the store. This is house, like, 3, 2... Just get one of the houses. I'd rather not. But the rains, it means the end of us people of the flying dragon. Something must be done. People of the flying dragon. So, can people of Dite fly? No, we can't. Instead, we've learned to live with our feet on the ground. Cool. Oh, man. Alright, hold on. Let me see if I can talk to these guys again. I'm gonna go to the inn as soon as I'm done talking with the elder. Okay, so I have to go back to the inn? I keep trying to talk to that one dude. This way. Oh, yeah. Oh boy, take these 3 guests. Ah! Fuck, I gotta stop wearing this. Bracelet. That caught my hair. Again. What's the matter, Gadwin? You came back to the inn pretty late last night, it seems. Yeah, I had a long talk with the elder. Things will be alright here. I pressed A too fast. What was it? Gadwin's in your thoughts. My laundry! Did you look outside? It's raining right now. What? Oh no! And then all the people are just like melting. Welcome back, Penguin. Gadwin, tell me what's going on. Indeed, it is raining. Oh no. Yeah, I don't think living next to a beach is ideal if you guys are afraid of precipitation. So what's wrong with Gadwin? It's raining, so what? I think it's something else. Whatever it is, it's not just a rainstorm. Let's go see. Yeah, let's go. You know, don't you, Gadwin? We have lost the spirit protection, the scene at the Typhoon Tower. The earth soaked with poisonous rain, dead rivers stained with ill fortune. Have you witnessed that scene? Yes, of course I understand. Soon, the poisonous rain will turn red and become the rain of death. To save Dite, we must climb the Typhoon Tower, as legend says, and bring back the Spear of Heroes. And so I say to you, take this hero's armband and save our village of Dite. I'm ready. But Elder, 2 heroes are needed to retrieve the Spear of Heroes. If I go by myself, how can I possibly pass the final test? Yes, but you're the only one here. There's no other hero. And then Justin's like, yoo-hoo. Hey Gavin, I'll go with you. Yeah. What? You're just a child. I appreciate your concern, but... all these dragon folk? Yeah. They're pretty cool, though. I mean, they're no Merrig. Merrig! Sir, you underestimate him. Justin is a man. One who has crossed the wall at the end of the world. What? This child? The wall at the end of the world? Bitch, you lying. Justin, the Typhoon Tower is a horrible and dangerous place. Without the spirit protection, we may lose our lives. We've never been allowed near there, so I ask you, do you still wish to go? If I were afraid of danger, how could I call myself an adventurer? Besides, we made a promise, man to man, to help each other whenever the need arises. Aw. Gah ha ha ha, you're right. We did swear to each other, man to man, an oath between friends. And not a damn one of them uses a sword. Oh, all these dragon folk, and not damn one of them uses a dragon sword. Use a sword, Jesus. Yeah. They're all fishermen. You think these towns would have more warriors given they have so many weapons for sale? Yeah, you'd think. Yeah, it makes no fucking sense, actually. Every village needs some warriors, right? Sir, as in the legend, 2 warriors stand before you, ready to save the village of Dite. Yeah, so now it is decided. In that case, allow me to bestow upon you the legendary hero's armband. On its rightful owner, it will shine. Let the spirits guide these 2 here to Dite. Justin, are you sure you want to go? Of course I'm sure. We made a promise, man to man. You wouldn't know about that, lady. Heh, look, Fina, don't it look cool? Never mind. What's all this about man-to-man promise? Someone calls you a hero and you let it go to your head. If you're that reckless about sticking your head neck into danger, you're just a third-rate adventurer. What the fuck is your problem? Fina, why are you so upset? It's not like you. That's right, what's bothering you? Challenging danger is a part of being an adventurer, isn't it? It's okay, everything will be fine, just as it's always been, right? Justin. Alright, Justin. We're all agreed, so let's get going. Our destination, the Typhoon Tower, lies to the north of Dite Village. The north. Okay. Oh, wait, dumbass. Yep. We save game. It was in the inn, which is right here. Like 20 hours. Nice. Some of this was probably me idling and going to go pee, take out the trash and shit. Typhoon. When I beat this, I played it on my Vita, PlayStation Vita. It's a pretty solid way. This is a good handheld game. Oh yeah!
Come, try again.
You better practice if you want to beat me. I never got sick of that line. Oh, I don't know why this feels special. No, fuck off. I'll kill you! Lose a character and win the fight with Gadwin. What do you mean? He'll shit talk you. Really? Like let Sue die and then he'll talk shit? I actually didn't know that. Oh yeah, this is permanent. I gotta use this. No, which one am I looking for? Ups IP of one friend. I'm gonna do one for Justin and then one for Fina. Well, it's kind of rare unless you do Redux. Oh, yeah, because I gave some that version. It sounds very difficult, actually. I do wish this game was a little harder, but that sounds frustrating. I don't think I'll ever play that, to be honest. Bonds of Trust just moves your movement on the IP gauge. Yeah, that's what it said. That's the IP. But it said permanent. Otherwise, I wasn't gonna do it, but it said permanent, so I was like, yeah. And then I'm gonna do Justin Fina because I think those are really the only two consistent members, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like, doesn't everybody kind of leave? And it's just like a rotating cast for a while. So guessing on yourself is like wasting half a turn. Wait, but it said permanent. Oh, does it mean permanent for that fight? It's not like a stat increase? That's funny. I think I misunderstood that. Permanent use. Yeah, so it's everlasting, right? Like even now, my IP is faster than it was because of the previous battle, or no? Am I misunderstanding this? Because when I think of permanent use, I'm like, yeah, it's... Or... No, the item is permanent. Oh, I can keep using it? Is that what that means? Like I can just spam that one item and I should give it to somebody else so they can too? But the IP boost is instant. Oh, okay, okay. Okay, that's cool. So having two in my inventory is also a waste of space. It's like if you wanted to use a specific character. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Wait, yeah, I triggered that. Yeah, after the Grandia games, I'm probably gonna play Onimusha. Do you like those ones? Ever played those before? You could say boost Gedwin's slow action with Fina so he can blast out some damage. Yeah, that makes sense. So if I check my inventory, I should have two of them, right? Oh, I do have a power shroom. But I never use them. Yeah, I kind of neglect items. I noticed that. Like, unless I'm desperate. And in this one, I pay more attention to my inventory because when it's easier, so I'm not like as pressed to like know, but also it's the whole fact that like there's finite inventory. I have to manage that. In Grandia 2, I forget about what's in my inventory all the time because it's a pool and it's infinite. Yeah, I get you.
Hip hip hooray!
Nice. They're almost leveled up. At least Justin is. Ah. Oh shit, it's toxic. You want to know about mana egg existence? What do you mean about mana egg existence? I know about the mana eggs. Like location? Yeah, if I'm by one, you could tell me. Like, go south. Like if you should find some or not. I mean, I know what they're used for. I find them sometimes. They're actually kind of hard to find. But yeah, dude, if you know where they're at, like if that's what you're saying, like, oh yeah, there's like one south of here, then yeah, I don't mind that. Oh. There's one. Thanks, bro. Ah! And that actually does not a small amount of damage. That adds up. Ah, well, there's one in this area and there's one in the next dungeon. Okay, well, I got the one in this area. I don't know if there's a delay. There might be. Yeah, I found that one, which is good. And then I'll keep an eye out for the next dungeon. It sucks you have to find them. I prefer how they work in 2, where it's like it's basically like mass materia, you know, and like you just equip the egg that holds like the magic type, like star or chaos. And eggs are the only way you can fudge things up in this game. Yeah, that actually does check out. I can probably screw myself if I don't do it right. But I beat this game before without really paying too much attention to that. But maybe I lucked out, or I just... Or it's hard to do. Like, there's fuck up potential. Game is beatable without magic, but that's kind of boring. Yeah. I feel ya. When somebody leaves my party, I get refunded their eggs that I spent on them, right? Isn't that a thing in this game? I remember remembering that, right?
Not bad, eh?
I'm guessing you think Gadwin will leave? I played this before, and I know, like, don't I get like a different hero in different area, like, as I travel? Like, Gadwin's gonna leave after a few arcs, and then somebody else joins in. Doesn't this game do that? And it's not Gadwin I'm thinking about, it's Sue. Both, technically. Oh, rats. Yeah, no. I forget a lot about how this plot kind of goes, but I remember that. I remember that about this. But yeah, I get refunded. Nah, mana eggs don't get refunded, but they don't refund mana eggs, just 1/3 of the experience. Oops, my English was broken there. Hey, question, I forget. Where are you? I feel like we've had this talk before. Is English your first language? Or is it not your first language? Thank you. They don't get refunded, just the XP. It is. My typing is just jumble sometimes. Oh, I do that all the time too. It's like I kind of edit as I write sometimes, and then I'll forget. So I'll like repeat myself. We've all been there. Or I'll fat finger it and hit enter, and then I just roll on a couple keys. So it'll be like there, you know?
Pretty easy.
Hell yeah. Oh. Can I climb this? Forget how this shit works. Oh yeah. But first, keep doing that. What does vaccine do? There's plague. Oh damn, that's a lot. Blue pill. Brought to you by Blue Chew. I'll be fine. I'll just start healing with Fina. Basically, type the same thing twice, forgetting the first thing I said. Yeah, and it makes sense, and then you don't notice it until you press enter, and then you're like, "Fuck!" Move shroom. A wild Sachino? Is that how you pronounce that? Sacino? Sachino? Yeah. Oh! Sue!
Come on, get up!
Did I heal Gadwin by accident? Yeah, I did.
Now you'll be okay.
Fina's kind of fast. I like that.
Now you'll be okay.
Let's go! Yeah, the new equipment is nice.
All right, we won.
Oh, fuck. I need one of those, doohickeys. You know what I'm talking about? Those vantage point markers. Hard rain is falling. It seems the protection of the spirits has dwindled away. We should go back. Surely it's dangerous to go any further. It's okay, Fina. I'm here, aren't I? Shut the fuck up, Justin. No, you don't understand. I have a bad feeling about this. Then they all die horribly. One by one. Sue first. Hey, what's going on? My whole body is burning. Look out. The rain here is poison. In a moment, this rain will turn red. We have little time left. Hurry, Justin. Ah! Ah! Oh, shit.
Come on, get up!
Get him.
What a cinch.
Oh shit, I thought you were part of that. Okay. Oh wait, are you respawning in there? Why are there more? Lizard Rider? Sounds like an insult.
You're no match for me.
Justin's almost leveled up. Give me like 1 or 2 more fights. Somebody's in here. I'm gonna fight you. I saw you in here. I guess not. Whatever, whatever. Here we go. This is exactly what I was talking about. Mountain Peak, okay. Yeah, let's fight him. Oh yeah, you're fucking dead, dude.
You're no match for me.
Just gets jumped. There we go. Yeah. And then Sue,
Now you'll be
if
okay.
anything. Hiya! What time is it? It's only 10:20. Dude, it feels like 1 a.m. Because I haven't napped today. I didn't take my nap time. Oh, in here? Sick. Power. There's a mana egg in here somewhere. What are you telling me? What's up, Bish? What's up, brah? How you doing? How you doing tonight? Yeah, I'll do this now, and then I'll just go back to the save and then recover, get all my shit back.
Here goes!
Chill and get ready for bed. That's what I should be doing. Yeah, here I am.
Pretty easy, right, puppy?
What we got here? Oh, man, egg. Sick. Where do I get you? Get off! Get off! Get down here and fight me! Fine. I don't want to fight anyway. Oh. Cover. Hey, you know what? Fuck it. Let's save too. I don't care. Psychomantis would just say that I'm a very prudent player. Oh shit. Having trouble getting off? Oh, never. No, it's just that's funny. Those enemies wouldn't come down. Ah. You playing anything tonight? Playing with these nuts? Nice. That's a good game.
Not bad, eh?
One of my favorites. Dark Tide earlier? Nice, nice. I'll play that one again. It's just, I've been neglecting this. So I feel bad when I'm like, no Outlast or Dark Tide tonight. Just finished another episode of Fallout. Dude, I gotta start this season. You liking it? Oh shit. hit with the counter.
Now you'll be okay.
Pretty good so far. How many episodes are there? Like 4 now? Feel like that?
Come, try again.
Nice. Leveling up. Oh shit. Didn't even see you. Use charm. Oh. Oh wait, what? What? Stairs? Shit. It's been out a while. Thought it was unusual. Only half a season was out when I watched it the other day. It's weekly. It's weekly. It's releasing weekly. So episode 4 came out. I don't know tonight. I don't know the day. Sick. Cancelled. What's the point of it being weekly if it's not free to air on TV? Because I mean, streaming services now are basically cable, you know. But I actually kind of like weekly releases. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still TV. Yeah, to keep the subscriptions going longer. Yeah, 'cause it's totally easy to just, what was it, buy a month, binge it, and then cancel. At least this way, they got you for at least a couple. And hopefully by that point, you're hooked. Blech. Not that they have to try hard to keep me subscribed to Prime. True. Even though I don't have Prime, I use my sister's like a parasite. Or Switch? Hopefully. Free subscription plus all those other perks. Wait, what do you mean by free subscription? You have a free Prime? Amazon Prime gives 1 Prime sub. Oh, that! Sorry, I thought you meant the subscription to the Prime service. My bad. Yeah, the free Twitch. That's right. I keep forgetting that fucking Twitch is owned by Amazon. Free Twitch sub, yeah. I forget about that. Cash Cow usually gives me his Prime subs. And I'm like, thanks, man. You have to do that. Oh shit, that fucker's tough. Free delivery is nice, assuming you can find what you need on Amazon. Yeah, I've taken advantage of the trials before, because sometimes it's just like, you know, hey, here's a month on us. I'm like, thanks. And yeah, it is very convenient.
Come, try again.
Like the last thing that I got on Amazon was those cat, like, motion detector air shoe things, you know? To keep my cat off my couch. Pays for itself if you order things enough, yeah. Which I don't. They sound like, remember when, JonTron was gonna be in, Ukulele? And if you've ever heard those like sound samples of him, like it's JonTron doing the like that Banjo-Kazooie blah 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 blah, you know, that weird voice. They sounded like these guys, these bird things. That's what he sounded like. Their system of delivery, allowing them to deliver things super fast, is too convenient too. Yeah, it's worth the price. Oh yeah. Yeah, do you hear it? I wish they kept him. Because it was pretty awesome hearing him like that. They're gonna ambush me. What is this? Oh, it's a nothing. It's all gravy until there's literally no other competition and they charge absurd prices. Yeah. Yeah, we're doomed. Question from Amazon, it's okay. No, I just mean with the way things are going. Everything's a subscription. Companies don't want you to own shit. Become members. They're more like the middleman most of the time. Yeah, because they're a store. They're basically like a online Walmart.
Not bad, eh?
Welcome back, Paul. Am I going the right way? Maybe. Kinda? Let me go around here. Let me go right. Wait, did I make a big ass circle and go backwards? I hope this is the same one. It might be. Fuck! This is the beginning of the dungeon. That's funny. Alright. Oh yeah, I have to find a switch though. That's right. For that one platform. This way, I want to say, is where we're... See. Oh, it's pointing me to go this way too. What's over here? Let me circle around. Oh, nice, money. Might as well keep fighting. Killing things means I wasn't there.
Oh, flame burn 'em!
Burn flare. Aw, shit. Use it to. No, actually, I'm out of MP for that. Oh no, I got some. Oh, that's right, because I recovered. It's okay, just fight. Ooh.
Hip hip hooray!
Great. I'm fucking recovering my losses from that expensive ass. Ooh, a sickle, nice. How much damage is that to? Ooh. Oh. Oh, that's right. How the fuck? Where the fuck? Because this isn't it. This is back to that save spot, right? What's this way? Oh yeah, I don't think I was over here. Yeah, I was. Let me. I didn't find the switch. I think it was this side. Yeah, I have to rotate this. Goddamn, why that one dude twice the level of all the other characters? I met him in this village. He's a temporary character. Oh, okay, yeah. I gotta fucking flip that though. And I can use that rope to get around. Is this a switch? Ah.
No. Wait.
Wait. Look back, Jay. I'm glad you guys like that one.
Retarded?
Yeah, I don't know where the switch is. Alright, I'm gonna give it another look-see. Oh shit. That do it? Enjoy being lost in this one, by the way. Do you have any tips? Is this one of the more mazy ones, or am I just being dumb? Oh, yes and yes. Press buttons. I mean, I'll give this dungeon another solid 15 minutes before I just Google this shit. Oh, that's funny, you got stuck. Do you think that when you were just a kid, you could have imagined video games getting as advanced as this? At one point, yeah. That's funny. But wait, no, what the fuck? I'm gonna hit it one more time. I'll get back up there and just check. One of these was red. Oh wait, there's another. Oh shit, hang on. Oh! Okay. These are buttons. Got one. Am I ambushed? No, cool. What's erupt cut? Oh, I'll do burn flame. That might be reach. Let's see.
Rage and flame.
Okay, cool. Well, I remember when I was a kid, somebody was describing Halo to me being a first-person shooter, and I literally could not comprehend what he was talking about. You're like, wait, can you walk me through this one more time? You see through the character's eyes? How does that work? Do you have to hit each button to walk? Never heard of Doom? Probably not as a kid. I mean, nah, I was sheltered. Yeah, his mom didn't let him have good cereals. She gave him the healthy shit. Oh, add time.
Pretty easy, right, Puppy?
Yeah, we're getting there. What is that? Pirate helm? Cool, cool. Oh, only these two. Okay, yeah, give it to fucking Justin. Alright. Is this right? I don't think I pushed it. Let me see. Wait, it wasn't. Shit. That was an ambush. Oh my god! Oh shit, motherfucker. Okay, I got all three at least. Oh, Sue! No! Oh wait, this is the thing that Penguin was talking about, where somebody dies and then let Gawin finish them, and he'll talk shit. No, not burn.
Now you'll be okay.
What does he say?
You guys need more practice.
Nice. I never heard that line before. Who's got it? 69? Hell yeah. Practice harder, scrubs. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that tip. I wouldn't have heard that if you didn't tell me, because I was about to resurrect her anyway. But I saw he was next, and I was like, oh shit, this is exactly what he was talking about. Was he just lying on the floor? Yeah. An 8-year-old girl. She's just a real BB. I have a tip for you right here. Unzips dick. Unzips your actual dick. And then, like Pennywise, like the deadlights are in there.
Not bad, eh?
What a guy. Yeah. I love that emote. Is that Cybers? It is Cyber, yeah. Zip stick sounds painful, right? It's like some like Cenobite shit. I'm really curious about that Hellraiser game. I hope it doesn't suck, because I love the idea of it, and everything I've seen looks pretty good, so I'm cautiously optimistic, but I've been let down before. But it looks promising.
Come, try again.
Alright, I think I'm making progress. This seems promising. More buttons. Okay. All right. Let me see what else is down here first. Is that it? All right, cool. Let me the fuck out of here. There we go. Now I have to find my way back. All right, cool. Oh, I think it's... Oh, fuck. No, I can't reach there. Okay, yeah. Alright, I'm gonna sleep. Let's play Dark Tycoon. Yeah, I do, definitely, definitely. Most def. It's not timed, is it? You can let me go? Hold on, let me... The other way? This one? No, that's where it came from. Joey. Oh wait, hold on. Let me just take a little peek. I'm just gonna take a little peek. Oh yeah, so I can't. Alright. Let me... Another stand. Whatever. I already forgot which is which. I'm gonna guess this is the one that doesn't take me back to where I was. Right. Don't be the ladder. Okay, I heard the ladder. Yeah, the fence. Check this other side. Let me just double check over here. Here's your problem. Hey, more enemies. You know, I gotta get back to my rare games. I need to finish Donkey Kong Country 3 still. My least favorite. And then do some of their N64 shit. That was like low-key kind of a goal. Because they missed out on like basically that entire library. And I hear nothing but good things about like Banjo-Kazooie and shit, and I was like, I wanna play. It was this way. Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna go back out because I really want that Banjo So Good. Is that your favorite of the rare games? At least on N64? Or was it that weird ant one? Forget. I think they're... Yeah, it's right here. Cover. And save. Probably yes on N64. Nice. And your favorite overall, I'm gonna guess, is probably either Donkey Kong Country 1 or Star Fox or some shit, right? Well, Star Fox is... My bad. No. Star Fox 64. Not 64. Star Fox is on SNES. Oh, I didn't realize there was a safe spot right here. I'll save again anyway. Fuck you. Tough call between Banjo and DKC. Is Donkey Kong 64 as tedious as they make it sound? Guagudat. Zapado. Gidabevwa. What's the Klep King? No, that's fun. Tedious to 100%. Oh, okay, that's fine. You don't got 100% it. That's the Klep King. Set your mind on defeating him, Justin. Leave it to me. But he looks so weak. Damn, dude. Oh man, it's user wording. Oh shit! Look at that. Do not flinch, Justin. If you focus your strength, there's no opponent you can't defeat. Yo! Stock growls? Hell yeah, dude. Alright, Hothead, oh man. These, yeah, they're actually not that. Well, let me see what their resistance is like.
Here goes!
Okay, yeah, we'll be fine. Unless you start healing. Just gonna spam all my biggest shit right now. Oh, that's fine. I'm gonna use Burn Flame. This Venus magic's pretty good. Oh, and the body. Nice. Yeah, let me get the heads out. Because you get more rewards that way. If you kill like the body, then you know it takes the heads with it. But if you kill each body part, at least in Grandia too, then you get like loot from each head or each body part you kill on the way.
Take this.
69? Dude, that was like 4 69s.
Come, power of the universe. Ha! Dragon King Slice.
Thunder, thunder, Thundercats. Oh! Can I do it again? I can. How you guys doing? Yeah, you guys are getting fucked up. Dude, this boss ain't shit.
Here goes!
Boss ain't shit.
That was pretty.
That was easy. Oh, I got a lot of experience though. Oh, dang, that's like at least a level each. Let's see. Yo, Mr. White! We did it, Justin. Next, just pull out the Spear of Heroes. This is splendid, Justin. All that's left now is the final trial. And then they fight to the death. The final test. The legend says only one hero leaves. And have to kill this grown man. Or this grown man has to kill this child. That's right, all that's left is the final trial. What? The monster just now? That wasn't the final trial? For seasoned warriors like us, something you can topple with strength alone can't be a true trial. From here is a place where men like you and I are tested. Let's go, Justin. Never mind. Oh, a puzzle. Alright, sorry in advance, everyone. Oh, this isn't so bad. Okay, cool, 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 cool. Oh, fancy. I'm gonna see if I can go back, though, and then take advantage of that, save spot. And get my SP back. Watch me have to fight him again. what's this? It's a dead end. Where's the spirit of heroes? Justin, everything ends here in the room of mirrors of destiny. Who named that? This room itself is a tower's final trial of the hero. The final trial? The final trial? Trial is written on that stone tablet. You better read it, Justin. The tablet. Alright. Bet. Hey Gadwin, it says something, but I have no idea what it means. Stone tablet reads, he who wishes to change destiny chose either the mirror of the moon or the mirror of the stars. One leads to the future, the other leads to the land of the dead. Oh man. Does that mean if you select the wrong mirror, you're gonna die? Did you know that from the start, Gadwin? Gadwin is one man. He said that he couldn't save die. Maybe this is what he meant. Don't worry, Justin. I won't let you die. I'll go into the mirror first. Wait a minute, Gadwin. What if you choose the wrong one? In that case, Justin, you go to the other mirror. It is certain to lead to the future. You fool, Gadwin. I don't want you to hear that. I want to hear that. That would mean that you had died. You're kidding, Gadwin. You intend to do this from the very beginning? You were just passing through as a traveler and decided to help save our village. Your gallantry moves me. Don't make such a face. If I die, it'll be up to you, Justin, to save Dite. Oh, this is cute. Don't die, Gadwin. Even if a man has to lay down his life, he must carry through. Gadwin, surely you'll return. We are praying for the protection of the spirits. Man, fuck those spirits. My name is Gadwin, stone tablet of the trial, and I choose the mirror of the moon. Open up the mirror of the moon. Farewell, Justin. Bye, Batch. Gadwin. Gadwin, no! Nice. What happened, Gadwin? Won't work. It's too small for me. I can't get in. That's funny. Come on, Gadwin. I was so moved by your sincerity. This is no laughing matter, Justin. Now you have to go. That's what the stone tablet of the trial says. You must take this road. I understand, Gadwin. I mean, he'll be able to fit when I go through first. I trust you, Gadwin. This is the mirror of the moon. It's that one that Gadwin attempted earlier to enter. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, let me fucking in, dude. My name is Justin Stone Tablet. Save your life. I don't even know. Stop, Justin. Why did you do that, Fina? Justin, that's not heroic. It's foolish, both of you. Justin, why must you put your life on the line to rescue the people who have died? If you die, your adventures will end. This is what you want. What are you saying, Fina? I have to go, or the people who have died will all die. Are you saying that's okay? I will go. I will enter the mirror, so you all the way here, Justin. Talking crazy. We wouldn't have you do such a dangerous thing, Fina. No, this is where an adventurous experience and intuition comes in. So, Justin, please let me go. Sure. Yeah, go. I got it, Fina. So choose for me, Fina. I believe in you. The mirror you choose has got to be the right mirror. Justin. I asked the same, Fina. Show us the way. Yeah, Fina. My name is Justin, stone tablet of the trial. I will now follow the lead of the spirits. It's no good. I cannot choose. I'm wrong. Wait, Fina, I believe in you. Spirit Stone will protect us. We'll be together. It will be alright. The Spirit Stone will protect us just as so far. Stand up, Fina. Stone tablet of the trial. I will now follow the lead of the spirits. Fucking... Alright, mirror of the stars. Open the mirror of the stars. Okay, so I did pick the left one. Justin. What up? Justin, you have to come back. I will! You ever think Justin does something and is done with... Wait. You ever think when Justin does something and is done within seconds of time, he goes, I did that just in time. Oh, nice. Probably. I would, if my name was Justin. Rest assured, everything in Dite depends on you, Justin. Technically, it depends on Fina. Bye! Go. This is the one that leads to the future. Once again, the road that Fina chose for me is the right one. Thank you, Fina. Thanks, Fina. Oh, do I have to go tell them? No? Okay, okay. Alright. stick my head back. This is the one! And then it turns out you have to go further and then we all die. Except Gadwin's fat ass. This is it. This is the spear. Here it goes. And then like Desmond just like, ah! And dies. Spirit Heroes is pulled out. What's this? What happened? What? Oh no! This place is collapsing. I need to get out of here! Oh my god! It's collapsing. Oh shit. Vita, you bitch! Oh shit, the Spirit Stone will protect you. What is this? Light. Now, supposing that this enchanted tower is collapsed, Justin successfully pulled out the Spear of Heroes. He's all the more of a true hero. That doesn't matter, Justin. What'll happen to Justin? Eek. This isn't working. Only a few hours remain until the tower collapses. Phoenix Sue, you go outside first. I will wait here until Justin returns. No, wait, I'll wait here. I won't leave Justin. Justin. Fina, get a grip. Surely Justin's alright. I will stay. I made a promise to Justin. Men to men. It's inevitable. What are you doing, Gadwin? Let's go. Justin! Oh, dang. Let's fucking throwing these bitches out. I imagine, like, Jazz from Fresh Prince just... Ah! They just get thrown out. Justin! I want to play this like on an actual CRT, the PS1 version, you know? And I've never seen gameplay of the Saturn version. Do they look different? I wonder. Did the PS1 add anything? Justin, Dustin, all the rust and starts thrusting, eating sandwiches with the crust in. He says it tastes bustin'. Dude, literal bars. Put that in a song. The wretched tower has left together with the light. Oh, Justin, have you left us too? Arr! Why did you have to die? If I didn't have to take these two back, I would kill myself right now. Jesus Christ. Justin's not dead, you silly Gadwin. You fucking idiot! Hey, Justin. Ah. Oh shit. What's happening? What is it? What's that light?
Justin?
Oh, nice. Now you speak.
Ow!
Fuck!
Ow!
Be gone, bot!
Justin!
Are you all right? Are you hurt?
Are you kidding? I'm just fine.
Wow! Justin, you're like a real hero!
That's right. You're just the man I knew you to be.
Really? Come
Sick.
on, Gadwin. You're gonna make me get embarrassed.
Justin.
Fina, how about that? I did it. Aren't you impressed?
Punches the shit out of him. Don't you ever do that! Yeah.
What?
Good old
What
trope.
the heck was that for?
Fuck you!
Uh-oh.
Justin! You fool! Look at me! I'm crying! You have no idea how worried I was.
Fina.
Promise me, Justin. Promise that you'll never, ever worry me like that again.
I'm sorry. I promise. I'll never make you cry again. I swear.
Justin.
This scene would go a lot better in Japanese dub. Oh yeah, probably.
Really worried.
I mean, there is a lot of charm to this bad acting.
Hey! It stopped raining! Look! Look, everyone! Over there! It's a rainbow!
The charm doesn't carry it. Yeah, I bet the tone is completely different when I'm not listening to these fuckers, but I'm into it. I like the voice acting. It's not good, but it's what we got. God damn it. Sue VAing is great though. Sue's voice acting in English. Or talking about, yeah, at least in English. Yeah. Yeah, Sue's fine. Welcome back, Jay. Thank you for the redeem. Nolan's probably the worst, even though the voice matches the character. Yeah. It is kind of a fitting thing. I never left. Oh. Sweet. I like the Japanese voice acting more. In this, next time I play it, I'll probably switch over. Or can I do it now? Let me see. Let's see. Let's try the Japanese for a bit. I'm curious. It will alter the battle voices? Oh, I figured as much. Let me hear it right now. Right now. It says Goofy, more on par for the time. I don't mind the battle voices so much. I'll let you know. I think. Hey. For English, that is. Right. I mean, it's hard to fuck up, you know. Take that! I barely heard him. Fuck him up! Just go for it. Ah! Ah! I don't like it as much. Talk to the chief. Heroes every turn, motherfuckers. Wait, where was the chief? No, this is a weapons store. Oh, that's the clinic. Fucking chief at again? Probably over here. Move! Can I cross that? I keep doing that. Oh yeah, that thing. Wait. Oh, yeah. Oh wait, no, this is the end. That would mean Chief's this way. Yeah. Yeah, thank God. Oh fuck, he's not even here. Oh, which one was the Chief again? They all look the same. Go back to the... There's, you? You're not Chief, are you? The Elder? Okay, you are. Oh, you returned, Gadwin, and when the rain stopped, I knew you must have succeeded. Now, Gadwin, it is time to thrust that spear into the dragon's nest. No, I'm afraid it is not for me to do. Listen, people of the flying dragon! The dark clouds are banished by the arrival of a hero, as in the legend. This hero's name is Justin, an adventurer who has come from afar. Let us all praise his name. What? This kid did all that? The boy is now a hero? Elder, I told you at the beginning, there's no reason to scorn him because of his young age. Well, to the hero, Justin, the dragon's nest with the spear. Only you have what it takes to do it. Guess I thrust the spear here. Okay, I'm ready. Justin, thanks to you, this village has been saved. Knock it off, Gadwin, you're making me blush. You know I don't do it alone. Didn't do it alone. But Justin, I didn't do anything really. It was you who did everything this time. I want you to accept this, Justin. It's a fitting gift for a brave hero, the retriever of the spear. In that case, I'll ask Fina to accept this armband. Huh? No, I guess Fina chose, yeah. If Fina hadn't chose that mirror, I probably would have been killed. I mean, I picked that mirror too. I mean, I just entered the mirror. It was Fina who showed me the way, Justin. It is as Justin says it is. So the armband is Fina's now? Yeah, she can have it. I don't give a shit. Oh, okay. Thank you. Looks great on you, Fina. Thanks, Justin. Alright, now what? So, brave hero Justin, what are your plans now? My plans? Well, of course I'm gonna look for the Angela. The big ruins lie south. You told me about them earlier? Justin, I'm sure you've kept Liate waiting by waddling around in all these affairs. Around here, they call those ruins the Twin Towers. Oh, jeez. I'll show you the way there. South of Dite, over the Llama Mountains, is Gumbo Village. From there, it's a boat ride to the ruins. What? A boat trip? Sounds scary. No, it's not that far. Anyway, Gumbo is a warm and friendly village. Once you arrange your boat trip, perhaps you'll have time to enjoy local festivities. What? You said festivities? Let's go, Justin. Right away. Right to jump. Right away. So he's ready to party. Well then, let's be off, Gadwin. Llama, 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 duck. Uh-oh. They look like biblically accurate tires. What are those? Cthulhu wheels. It looks like, what do they call it in Rick and Morty? The squibble? Some shit like that? I forgot what it is. It's like a little tentacle thing. I forgot what the... Whatever. Looks like that thing. Light attack. Oh shit!
Not bad, eh?
Wait, what? I can't cross that? What the fuck? Ah, don't touch me. Sick. Take that.
Rage and flame.
Hopefully it doesn't kill them all. So I want to heal Sue a little bit. Okay, that works. Think everybody else should be able to finish them off? Maybe not. Sue, you target this one. I say, kill them all! I'm from Buenos Aires, and I say, kill them all!
Finch.
Love that goddamn movie. Alright, yeah, you heard him. Let's kill them all. D, yeah.
Here goes!
Uh-oh. Yeah, Sue gotta level up a little bit.
All right, we won!
Tight! Fuck yeah! 6-7. What is this? Yellow pill? Can't take it? What does it do? There's 30 SP. Oh, nice. I will get rid of something else. I will get rid of... Trust? No, health weed probably. Then let me use some of these items. Where was the like a power mushroom? Power shroom? Okay. Oh, I had the the mana egg. Just make sure there's nothing over here, and then don't fall down. Alright, cool. Oh wait, the bridge. The bridge is out. Sounds like Crash? No. Jack and Daxter music. Sounds like Jack 1 music right now. There aren't any monsters here, and we have a good visibility. Let's camp here today. I agree with Gadwin. I'm so tired. Now then, let's have Justin and Fina give us something to eat. Sue, will you help out here? Sure, that's great. We'll set up the tent. Let's do it, Puffy. Puff, puff, puff. Naturally, after going beyond the end of the world, from here on, we'll be traveling into lands not on the map. I didn't notice it until Justin said it, but this truly is an adventure. That's right. I'm glad you feel the same, Fina. Whenever I'm full, I feel tired all at once. Fina, no matter what you cook, it's always so delicious. Puff, puff. Ha, you've eaten everything. Thank you, Sue and Puff. I help too, you know, don't forget that. Hey, Justin, you don't need to get credit for everything. We should talk about the land that lies ahead of us. Is there anything you'd like to ask? What is the village of Gumbo like? Gumbo is a warm village facing the sea. Thanks to the nearby volcano, it feels like late spring all year. Though the coastal village, like Dite, Gumbo is completely different. It's lively year-round festivals. Gumbo is, I want some gumbo, is an intensely vibrant place. Whenever I go there, I feel impressively cheerful. I wonder what and what else we got here? Oh, no, I didn't mean to pick that again. What is the Gumbo Festival like? Owing to the nearby volcano, Gumbo is always warm. Thanks to the volcano, the villagers celebrate often. They always have a positive outlook. They like to celebrate their third meal. After their third meal. After dinner. And they live for the festivals. The festival sounds like fun. It's just orgies. Or the purge. They're just constantly purging. For me, festival and adventuring are 2 words for the same thing. What else we got? We got one more question for you. About the Twin Towers. I myself have not gone to the Twin Towers, but the stories I've heard, it's situated west of Gumbo. However, the problem is that between Gumbo and the Twin Towers lies mountains that spew deadly poison gas. Consequently, the only way to reach the Twin Towers is from the Southern Sea. In Gumbo, we'll have to seek out a boatman. Ah, the village of Gumbo. It sounds like such a happy place. It sure does. It's just the place for Justin. Well, let's get off to bed. Once we leave here, our next stop is Gumbo. Well, good night, everyone. Peace out, dog. Sorry, Colonel. The forces stationed in New Parm do not report having discovered Justin. No reports, you say? Drat. Where did he disappear to? Have them continue searching New Parm. At the end of the world, there is only one place for him to return to. Walking over that wall is impossible. Send the reports directly to me without going through General Ball. Do we tell him of the Spirit Stone? We have yet to obtain the Spirit Stone. Without results, do you think Father'd be happy to hear just a status report? Do you understand? Yes. Start the next operation now. There are still mysteries for us to solve. The mysteries of the Icarians. So, we do head east? Yes, to the ruins. Move up to the final inspection of our ship, Lion Lot. The Lion Lot. Lean. We'll be on forced march starting again tomorrow. Rest up a little tonight. Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, for Sergeant. Affirmative. Affirmative. Lama Mountains, south. I want to at least get to Gumbo. Oh shit, man, these fuckers are fast. Slow down, bro. Does that count as an ambush? Okay, good. Oh. Call an ambulance! violence, but not for me. Uh-oh. Dang, I thought these motherfuckers would have died. What are you casting? What are you casting? Stop casting shit. Alright, I'm guessing I kill all these guys, then this motherfucker gets down, and hopefully he drops something for me. I don't know. It feels very deliberate setting this up like this. Yeah. Yeah, take that. I got bored at work and made a boom bap hip hop beat using classical music. You gotta put that in the Discord. You're gonna share it with the class. It's cool that you can produce music while you're working. Uh-oh. Motherfucker. Nice.
Not bad, eh?
Nice. Alright, one more. Two more. I lied. There's gotta be a reason that they're all like right there, you know? Aw, you missed, dumb bitch. Dead now. Aya! Aya! Just put like Power Rangers on or something.
All right, we won.
Damn, she just did a lot of damage on that one time. Alright, it's up to you, Sue. Wait, I should have healed. Oh, you're dead now. Gonna get it now. Alright, is this it? Moment of truth? Get down here! Motherfucker. Oh, wait. Down. Fuck fucker. Okay, sent you the beat. Hell yeah. I'll check it out. Snover.
Oh, flame burn 'em! Pretty easy, right, Puppy?
Hmm. A lot of fucking enemies. Wow.
Rage and flame.
Mozart has 24 hours to reply. What does that mean? Is that the name of the song? Really kind of funny. Whee! Wait, I gotta pee still. Alright. Oh, I can do this. Does this heal us more now that she's leveling it up? Oh, nice. Actually was a decent chunk for everyone. Wait, what's Tremor do? Does it get all of them, or just one? We're about to find out.
Off of your platform, you've also heard
Oh,
concerns
thanks. Oh shit.
about bias at Facebook, particularly bias.
I'll get it in. I'll get water. There's like an IOU with the water. Thank you. Here, this is a sip in here. See that? Here. Ah, refreshing. But yeah, when I go pee, I'll fill up my water, and I'll probably put like something on. And then I'll close my windows because it's a little too cold in here now. Fuck, we're all confused. That's okay. We have like 1,000,000 HP. We're okay compared to these guys. When the artist drops a song that sounds like another artist or a diss, and they say so, and so has 24 hours to reply. Oh, okay, okay. That's funny. I see what you did there.
All right, we won.
All right, I'll be right back. Here, I'll do this. Be right back. I'll do the other one. I'll do the Final Fantasy one. All right, I'm back. This is the best. Be right back. Oh, I'm glad you like it. Glad you like it. I say that's because if you go on Spotify Mozart, it's still dropping songs on his artist page. There's even songs from 2026 there. That's actually kind of funny. Jay, if you want, I can give you this Be Right Back screen. If you want. No pressure. No thanks. Fine! Oh yeah, here, and here's more water. Oh yeah. Dude, sometimes water just like slaps, you know? Oh shit. Dragon killer? Is that a dagger? Sword? Wow. Oh yeah, Jay. So when you were saying the Shark Boy scene transition, did you want that for your stream or for my stream? Because either way, it's actually not hard to do. Just a lot of roto masking. I think it'd be funny. You can use it or give it to me. That's good. How'd you come up with that idea?
What a cinch.
I feel like our inventory is full, is it? Yeah. Alright, let's see. To party? No, let's discard something else. Sickle. So that's the health weed. We're okay without the health weed. We have a lot of health weed. A lot. Holy shit. Alright. I don't know, we just mentioned the movie and the awful part popped into my head. I've only seen that movie once. I remember like my sister like dug it. I fucking hated that movie, like every second of it. I don't think there's a single redeeming quality in that movie. I hate it. But also it's made for 4-year-olds, so I guess in that regard. And dude, there's people that fucking love Shark Boy and Lava Girl. No, I don't think anybody needs this. No, we're good. Just fight. Fight! 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 Getting cold in here. The ad over yet? I just looked at it and it says Mozart dropped an album as of today, and that's 2026 music. I was talking about, I didn't realize it was today, so we got a new Mozart album before GTA 6. That's funny. It'd be crazy if it was new music from Mozart. Like he's got like a ghostwriter or something. Or he has unrecorded music that they're like doing now. That'd be kind of sick, actually. Bro. Yeah, it had been composed already.
Bomb and blast.
There's more than one. Oh, yep. Wow.
Pretty easy, right, Puff?
Get that right, Puff Daddy? Kill him! Technically, if he wrote the music, wouldn't he be his own ghostwriter? Oh, because he's dead, right? Damn, studio accuracy sucks.
Come, try it again.
We're there yet? We're there yet? More health weed. I know. It annoys me a little bit. Whoa.
All right, we won.
Okay, this is all a stepping stone to get us to Grandia 2. Jesus Christ, that's a big gap. This is the village where I made my little pastel perler art. It's based on a sequence that happens later on in here. This is the village of Gumbo. First, we must find a boatman. We have to go to the Twin Towers by sea. From a white beach in paradise, a boat ride to an emerald sea, a fine tropical breeze. Oof. Hey, it's cold. Can you just say it was a warm village? And it's so quiet. I don't hear any festival sounds. The sound of waves is all I hear. Gadwin, this isn't quite what I imagined from what you told me. This is strange. The old Gumbo had an entirely different atmosphere. Gumbo, you changed, man. The bracing salt air is certainly that of Gumbo. It is a fishing village, but much different than Dite. Really? Achoo! It's awful cold, isn't it? Let's hurry and get into the village. Come on, let's go. We have to find a boatman who will take us to the Twin Towers. Let me find a fucking inn. It's the inn? Go. Oh, bullshit. I'm gonna go to the inn. Guest house? Counts, right? You. Let me save. Alright. And I think this is a good spot to call it. I will pick this up, possibly Friday. But tomorrow, if people are down and around, we're gonna play Resident Evil Outbreak 2. I think we can finish the fucking RPD. But I would like to, for sure, bring those back. Like I said, sorry, Thursdays and the holidays the past couple of weeks have been kind of in the way. But that shit's over now, so hopefully people are still into playing Outbreak. But... I think we can call it. Let me close this actually, so I'll leave my fucking Switch on again. Yeah, I'll definitely pick this up most likely Friday if I stream, and tomorrow if people don't want to play Outbreak, or if they can't for some reason. But who we got? Who's live? We have Rin playing Last Bible still? Jeez. Wasn't he hating it? I thought he was hating it. And good, he's actually streaming this time, so I don't have a rated dead stream. I hate doing that. Whatever happened to Bradtastic? Is he still here? Oh yeah, he is. He's playing Donkey Kong. There we go. Yeah, let's rate Brad. We haven't rated Brad in a minute. Donkey Kong Bonanza, which I heard was good. Oh wait, I didn't mean to switch over. Is he? Yeah, he's good. Looks like Wreck-It Ralph rather than Donkey Kong. But yeah. Raid Brad Tastic Ninja. Thank you everybody for hanging out. I appreciate you as always. I think this is gonna be regular now. I think I'm good. I know I said this before, so I don't want to jinx it, but we should be back on a semi-regular schedule now. That's all I want. But peace out, guys. Thanks for hanging out. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. I'll check your streams out as much as I can. And bye bye.